Welcome to tonight's edition of Under the Bleachers. Chris Ransom, William Yanish, Brandice Bell could be joining us in a few minutes. I also got this brand new LED news ticker for my birthday. It's pretty sweet. I get all the bowl game updates, and if I want NFL scores, I'm going to leave the college scores up for now, but yeah, it's pretty amazing. I'll have that updated for Saturday with the Draft Utopia, but let's get into Notre Dame Penn State because this game is a big game. Abdul Carter's coming back from an injury. And James Franklin's already saying Notre Dame needs to belong in a conference. I don't like the trash talking by Franklin before the game. It conveys a sense he might be right, William, about Notre Dame needing to play in a conference. But to say that right before your biggest game of the year against the team you're playing, it conveys a sense of arrogance. And I think that in itself is going to lead to Penn State losing this game.
All right. That's the thing.
To Riley Leonard, Penn State might have a say in this. But they don't have their safety,
arrogance.
Kevin Winston Jr. And I think Notre Dame is going to find a way to win this game with their running back and their tight end, Mitchell Evans, the weapons they have. I think the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are going to find a way to steal this game from Penn State.
Yeah, and, what you were just saying, I like Drew Aller a bit more than Riley Leonard. Say in a draft sense, without full evaluations, I'd have Drew Aller at possibly second round, maybe if he shows out first round, and but Riley Leonard I wouldn't have it until the fourth round, and they're the same type of quarterback, things like that, and I don't know. Penn State's done a few things to screw up, but they've been in some good games. This should be, an excellent defensive game. And, picking a winner for that is hard. But, I like Drew Aller a bit more. I'll take Penn State, but, my what do you call it? My bracket says Notre Dame, but we're sitting here on air, and I'm kind of leaning a little bit towards Penn State. So,
is it Jeremiah Love? Yeah, Jeremiah Love's the running back for Notre Dame. You're going to have Nicholas Singleton and Jeremiah Love. They're ultimately going to dictate the tempo and the time of possession in this game, and I think Love's got the advantage there. I do think Aller's the better quarterback, and you could argue that Tyler Warren is a better tight end than Mitchell Evans. Nobody's disagreeing with those takes.
Yeah.
But it's the way I just think Marcus Freeman's more focused on this game than Franklin. And Franklin, for him to say that Notre Dame needs to play in a conference like us, for me, it just conveys a sense of arrogance. It rubs me the wrong way. He might be right. Big Ten coaches, SEC coaches, fans of SEC Big Ten teams probably agree with Coach Franklin. But for me, it just conveys a sense of arrogance. And to say that right before you're playing your opponent,
that's not an ideal thing right there. It's especially coaches. There's cockiness, there's arrogance. There's definitely a borderline there. At least I see one. And
Notre Dame's an independent team. They choose what opponents they want to play. If they joined a conference, they play in the ACC. The Notre Dame does play in the ACC for basketball and soccer. And if they played in a conference, they'd play in the ACC because they played in the ACC for football during the COVID year, William.
Yeah. But like I said, I like a little bit of arrogance or cockiness in quarterbacks, just not coaches, and they both have good running backs. Nicholas Singleton and Jeremiah Love are both definitely there. I think Drew Aller might have Tyler, like you said, Tyler Warren is, a better tight end than Mitchell Evans. And, I just feel that, this is definitely a great matchup, and I love that fact.
It sucks that Joe Alt and Olu Fashanu entered the NFL draft early, because if they went back for their final years, they'd be in this matchup too, and we'd be talking about the left tackles in addition to all the offensive weapons for both teams. But they had to get their money. I understand where they're coming from. They had to get their money, so I'm not going to fault them for that choice either.
Yeah, for real. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I definitely think that, whoever this, matches up against, between Oregon and, or not Oregon, but
Because Notre Dame's
Ohio
starting
State.
left tackle tore their ACL in training camp. They've been playing with a backup left tackle all year, and that does work to Abdul Carter's advantage with him coming back from an injury. So I do think there are going to be some series where there are going to be some defensive wins by Penn State in this game.
Yeah, for real. And, they always have that defense, always have the linebackers, and that's one thing that you can count on with this team.
But that'll be a really close, really competitive game. The next game's going to be the game that I think decides the national title. I think whoever wins the second game is pretty much going to be the overwhelming favorite on January 20th. Ohio State, Texas. I have the Longhorns beating my Buckeyes 35-34. I was born on my mom's 35th birthday. I turned 34 on Friday. So I think the Longhorns beat the Buckeyes in a shootout 35-34. I don't know if it's a missed field goal at the end or a missed extra point that does Ryan Day in defeat here, but something tells me Texas is going to win this because Ohio State's being favored by 5.5 because they blew out Tennessee and Oregon. I hope I'm wrong. I hope Jeremiah Smith continues to ball out, but Texas, they have the defensive backs to limit the damage on Ohio State's offense, and that might be enough to get this win.
Yeah, and there's underrated, skill positions on the Texas team. Ohio State obviously have much money. They've got packed in nil, with some of those receivers and such. I mean, they've got their work cut out for them 100%. And Will Howard's been doing his thing. He's been looking good, and he really, really needs to continue that. I think we talked about this the other day, and I was taking Ohio State by I think that's what it was.
Yeah,
because it's just the opposite of yours,
Ohio State's defensive line looked incredible against Oregon's offensive tackles. I mean, Oregon, Josh Connerly Jr.'s declaring for the draft, but Connerly lost like 3 or 4 one-on-one reps in that game. And I think Johnny Cornelius, the 5th-round right tackle on Oregon, gave up like 3 sacks to Jack Sawyer in one game. And if you count the quarterback hurries, he lost to Sawyer at least on 5 occasions, maybe 6 or 7.
Yeah, and Sawyer's a beast, man. I mean, he can change the game in a heartbeat, and I that's definitely one of the positions you definitely want to look at in this game. So
yeah, because if JT Tuimoloau and Sawyer show up, Quinn Ewers is going to have a hard time making the correct reads in this one.
He does do that quite often, though, making those correct reads. So he'll have his work cut out for him.
I do think he can beat Ohio State, but I also think he's going to have his work cut out for him. Maybe this is the just desserts for transferring to Texas. We'll see.
Yeah. Oh, I forgot. Yeah, he's definitely going to have a little bit of something he's looking at from transferring. So maybe a little bit of motivation or something,
That game's in Texas. Only reason I'm watching NBA is because you got the 30-6 Thunder and the 31-5 Cavaliers, 2 best records. It's actually on ESPN right now, so I've got the game on mute while talking sports with you. So, Ohio State, though, they've got some corners. They've got Denzel Burke, Jordan Hancock. They've got Lathan Ransom at safety. They've got some guys. Texas has Barron, who can play safety and corner for Texas. So he's their best defensive back. And I would imagine he's going to be lining up one-on-one against Jeremiah Smith, which is going to open things up for Carnell Tate and Egbuka and the running game for Ohio State. And maybe Ohio State just has too many weapons. We'll see. But I feel like whoever wins the Ohio State-Texas game is going to be favored regardless of what happens tomorrow night. Because that game on Friday, that's probably going to determine the favorite. And it's at the Cotton Bowl. For Texas, you want to get on the scoreboard first, and you want to get the crowd in the game. Because if you don't get the crowd in the game, you're going to lose. If you don't get the crowd involved in the game early, you're going to lose to Ohio State. Whereas if you're Ohio State, you want to score first. You want to take the crowd out of the game. You want your defense to play well. You just keep doing what you've been doing the last 2 games.
Yeah, for real. And like you were just talking about, the secondary and stuff with Ohio State, every day in practice, they get to go up against some of the best receivers, that are on their team. So I mean, they definitely can shut down this. We'll see what happens with them and Quinn Ewers. Talking about Sawyer and them, and it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, next year Ohio State and Texas open up the season against each other.
Nice.
That's the other thing too. So these teams are going to play each other in 2025, because I'm pulling up the Ohio State 2025 football schedule right now. They are going to host the Texas Longhorns. So the Texas Longhorns come to Columbus on August 30th. And that is a game where we are really going to see how Arch Manning responds to pressure unless Ewers comes back. But my guess is Arch Manning's going to be the one heading to Columbus for that game.
Yeah, and Ewers came back this last year, and with Manning breathing down his neck, that shows a little bit of cockiness that I like in quarterbacks. He had the confidence in himself, to be able to keep that job. And, he did even getting hurt and everything else. But definitely be a good game. But, Ohio State already screwed up my bracket last week. So, I don't even know what to think now.
Yeah, I don't either. What are we going to talk about for the next 15 minutes? I mean, some players we did get some news on some of the players. Milrow's going to the Senior Bowl.
Speaking about Milrow, I just got a rough draft done on my evaluation.
I think he's going to end up on the Giants. I think the Browns are going to take Shedeur. I think the Titans are going to get Cam Ward, and the Giants are going to get Travis Hunter at 3, and then they're going to trade up with Buffalo, and they're going to get Milrow in the late first round. And then Milrow would have a healthy Andrew Thomas at left tackle, Malik Neighbors, Travis Hunter on offense. Travis Hunter and Deonte Banks would be on defense. And it's just a better situation for Milrow to go to versus the Browns, because the Browns are thinking about keeping DeJuan Jones, their right tackle, who is a good right tackle, but not a very good left tackle, is the blind side. So if they go through with that, then I think the Browns, whichever quarterback ends up on the Browns, whether it's Sanders or Milrow, is going to struggle.
I'll go ahead and do a sneak peek on this Jalen Milrow,
because I think if you put Milrow on the Giants with Dable, he could thrive in that situation. But if you put him on the Browns and they don't do something at left tackle in free agency or the draft, I think he's set up for failure.
Yes, the Giants would be a great place for him. Dable, and
especially if they get Hunter and then they trade up for him. They get Hunter and you trade up for him, then it's just a great fit.
And what I came away with from this evaluation, I went, 6 games deep this year. And I mean, he is the same guy that I evaluated before. I mean, you can see his evolution, going. A lot of his throws, a lot of his oopsies and things like that are when he gets going too fast. He doesn't set his feet in time and either throws off his back foot, but with the potential that he has, with his legs and everything else, until another quarterback comes along, I'm going to obviously evaluate a few more coming up, but until one says better, Jalen Milrow is my QB1. And
that's the thing with this draft. Even though Cam Ward's my QB1, the thing with this draft is you're going to be seeing a lot of this draft analysis playing politics, because Shedeur Sanders is going to be at the East-West Shrine Bowl, but Jalen Milrow is going to be at the Senior Bowl. And both QBs had bad bowl games, so they're both going to need to shine in those all-star games in order to have a shot at going in the first round. Because if you have a bad bowl game and a bad all-star game, that is pretty much a death sentence to getting picked in the first round, unless you save face with the combine and the pro days.
I heard a guy talking last night on a reel, and literally says that Shedeur or that Dion isn't going to let Shedeur go to the Giants. That he wants him going to Oakland, which is where Shedeur obviously has his little thing, posting on Twitter and such, all except for the Giants, cleats that he wore to the last game. But yeah,
Yeah, and the New York media is brutal. The New York media is brutal. I don't think Shedeur could handle it there. But yeah, I was watching season 3 of Coach Prime on Amazon Prime. I just started watching the first episode. I haven't finished binging the series, but I just started watching the first episode. And the first thing I noticed is Shedeur Sanders is late for a team meeting because he decides to go to a fashion show in Paris. And he's got a purse and a limo. And I'm thinking, great. This is like Caleb Williams with the fingernails all over again. Great. Fantastic.
That was the thing that was screaming red flag. The first time I ever had anything to do with Caleb Williams. First game I watched was the Utah game. And
yeah, but so Shedeur has a person, Caleb Williams has fingernails. Dude. So are we to expect that the top QB in 2026 is going to have Cabbage Patch Kids or a Polly Pocket doll, or what's the red flag we got to watch for next year's cycle? I'm kidding, by the way.
Oh, man. Yeah. Yeah, but there's some truth to that. That's why it's so funny, If you are kidding, I mean, come on, man. And I don't know. There's going to be so much that goes into this, draft, and there's going to be so much of the Dion thing, and I'm wondering how much, if they don't get drafted by the team, if they're going to pull, the Elway Manning thing. And, and I'm by they, I mean Hunter and Shedeur, not getting to go to the places they want. Are they just going to come in there and pull some stuff to make them trade them? Or, it's going to be full of politics. And it's going to get a whole lot more dramatic before it gets any better. And the only time it's going to get any better is after the draft. And yeah,
I agree on that. What do we got? We got like 10 minutes until Brandice gets here. It's not that I don't want to keep going. I do. It's that we really have only like 10 minutes left, and we pretty much covered everything. Yeah. I'm going to try to get some news and some Senior Bowl invites and Shrine Bowl invites. But if I can't find anything in the next 5 minutes, I'm going to sign off.
Yeah.
And then get ready for Orange Show, because I got to set up the other stuff. Like I got to set up the I got to set up the LED ticker for the NFL games, update it. That could take up to 5 minutes. So, I'm looking to see, because I know there were some big names that got announced in the last 24 hours for the Senior Bowl. So I'm going to get defensive underclassmen added to the Senior Bowl roster. Deion Walker, Kentucky. Shamar Stewart, Texas A&M. Nick Scorton, Texas A&M. Walter Nolan, TJ Sanders, Shamar Sims. A lot of guys. Malik Verdon, Iowa State. Jacob Parrish, Kansas State. Azaria Thomas, Maxwell Hairston. So a lot of big names and underclassmen have been added to the list.
Well, that's a great thing, because now, they're having the week up to the Senior Bowl, and then, getting and seeing all these players together, and they're not in shorts, running 40s and whatever. They actually play ball at the end. So it's a little bit more telling than the combine. You can actually, see what happens.
The one-on-one trenches between the defensive line and offensive line are going to be fantastic, because I feel like there's a lot of high-end stars at this Senior Bowl. Walker and Walter Nolan were my D-tackle 1 and D-tackle 3. I know Mason Graham's the consensus D-tackle 1 now, but having those two guys at the Senior Bowl definitely helps.
Yeah, for real. And that's going to be, definitely something to watch this year. I'm going to try to get a couple evaluations out that week.
Because the Senior Bowl is going to be the week after the Shrine Bowl, and Shedeur's going to be at the Shrine Bowl, but I don't think he's going to play in the game. I think he's just going to go through the interview process like Zay Flowers did, because Zay Flowers, he didn't practice the first day, practiced the second and third day, did interviews the second day, suited up for the game, but did not play in the game. So I think the same thing is probably going to happen with Shedeur if I had to make an educated guess, William, because everybody who knew Zay Flowers' situation knew he was going in the first round of the draft in 2023.
And
so
Dion, he isn't. I don't see him letting Shedeur play. And that's just one of those things because, they're going to say that they already got the work out there. One game like this isn't going to matter. And sure, it's not,
He'll go there. He'll go to the Shrine Bowl. He'll interview with teams and stuff, interview with fans, but he will not play in the game. I'm just saying that's probably going to happen because Shedur's projected to go a lot higher than Zay Flowers did.
Yeah, and I've seen a lot of people talking about that, and it seems that a lot of people are a lot lower on Shedur as well. That's been popping up on social media a lot here lately. A lot of people coming out and saying things like that, and it's just been the last few days. I mean, one of those things.
What else? We want to wish everyone in LA to be safe. There were a lot of wildfires in 2025 has been off to a crazy start. Last week it was the New Orleans terror attack. This week it's the LA fires, the wildfires in Los Angeles. So we want to wish all of our listeners on the West Coast in Los Angeles, we hope you're safe. We hope you're in a location. And if you're listening to us, we hope things get better for you. So, yeah.
For real. But yeah, I guess we can end on that tonight, and have this already. And
yeah, we'll be back next week. We'll preview the championship game because the championship's not till January 20th. So we'll have a full show where we can preview the championship, and then in 2 weeks we can recap the 12-team playoff.
Yep.
Best and worst of the playoff, underclassmen deadline, all that stuff. So that'll be what we do, and then I don't know what we'll do from there afterwards, but we'll figure it out. So this Under the Bleachers college football playoffs extravaganza, it might be a 5-parter. It's definitely going to be a 4-parter. It might be a 5-parter once we crown the champion and just recap the best and worst moments of the playoff. But we'll see. That'll do it for part 3, though.